Shalom. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. It is derived from the title in Revelations chapter 7, verse 14, when it talks about these are those whose robes was washed in the blood of the Lamb. Are we the end time generation? Are we those who are being cleansed by the blood of the Lamb to fulfill these last days, this end of the age as it relates to the set apart ones? Will there be a final exodus? I am compelled to believe it will. And if I am even remotely off by the date of December of 2023, that would remove all doubt to whether it would be a final exodus, I will take heed to Habakkuk, where it said, if it doesn't come, wait for it will surely come. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, there will not be a pre-tribulation rapture. There will be a final exodus. There will be a gathering from the four corners of the earth before the physical return of Yahusha HaMashiach, sooner than we expect. And we will not be beamed to the promised land, nor will we be removed from the planet. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. These words are to those who are being drawn by the Almighty Father to his word. The Almighty Yahuah, who manifests his word in the name of Yahusha, who sent his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name, as written in John 14:26. These words are to you who are finding and discovering a stirring within inside to seek out what must be done, what will be done. You see, the plan of the Almighty Father is not based on a maybe or a might. It will come to be. We will come together, smaller groups moving into larger groups, with the ultimate destination centered around the true Mount Sinai, which is commonly referred to as Jabal al-Lawz, that's in the northwest quadrant of what is now known as Saudi Arabia. There are those who cannot conceive the promised land as being between Euphrates and the Nile because they say it's a desert. But these are the same people that believe that Yahuwah scattered Yashar'al. I prayed, and I pray often to discern what's happening, what occurred. And I am compelled to believe that the Spirit of Yahusha revealed to me that when Yahuwah scattered Yashar'al, he made the land barren to force them out of there. That's why it's a desert. To scatter them. Yashar'al, like, we're not going anywhere. This is nice. This is the land of milk and honey. But Yahuwah did scatter, but he said, I will return you back. So to look at his condition now and not believe that he will cause that land to flourish, to bring forth water. See, some people who say it's a desert, they don't even understand what an aquifer is, but they believe they're so academic and so well learned. An aquifer is a body of water underneath the ground. How many of them have said, I've researched by prayer to discern indeed how the promised land will be proven to be a land of milk and honey as we await the physical return of Yahusha, how the promised land will prove to sustain us as we wait the physical return of Yahusha. And I'm saying that to say, my brothers and sisters, this process of coming together will prove to demonstrate that there will be intermittent gatherings. Intermittent gatherings. Thus, the subject for this segment of Manifest, End Time Manifest. I believe it's time to revisit writings regarding what's to come, O Yashar'al, for some may be newly awakened and unaware. So let us look at some of the writings that talk about a final exodus, and let us seek to discern whether indeed we should anticipate and expect this to happen. So I begin by taking you to these words for starters. Isaiah 11:12. Isaiah 11:12 says, "And he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Yashar'al and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth." From the four corners of the earth, he's going to gather us. Before I show you more on gathering, stay with me as I present a response to those who push these things have already occurred without giving regard to the possibility of similar occurring situations. Come with me. Let's dive into this a little bit more, my brothers and sisters. You see, for those who say it occurred, for those who say I've been a moray and I've been teaching and I've read this for years and I know the Hebrew, for those of you who have been exposed to the undiscerning individuals and teachers and say that those gatherings took place already and it's not going to happen again, consider these words in Malachi 3:6. Say, "For I am Yahuah, I shall not change, and you, O sons of Yaakov, shall not come to an end." And these similar words are echoed in James. That was Malachi 3:6. James 1:16 through 18 says, "Do not go astray, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change nor shadow of turning. Having proposed it, he brought us forth by the word of truth, for us to be a kind of first fruits of his creatures." Let me continue. Know this, my brothers and sisters. There will be a final exodus. Throughout the scriptures, there are a lot of things that occurred cyclical, similar situations that occurred. But in these final days, during this end of age, we will come to that final gathering of a set-apart nation. Come with me to Isaiah 43. "For you have the misaligned, the undiscerning, that will tell you everybody's going to be gathered from the four corners of the earth before the physical return of Yahusha." Now, some won't say that. They might just be saying before the return of Yahusha. But for those who believe there will be a physical return of Yahusha, I am compelled to believe there will be a final exodus. There will be a gathering of the saints from the four corners of the earth, as described in the scriptures. But understand this, it will not be everyone. And there are those who spread a false sense of security saying, yeah, all of us, all of Israel, all of Yashar'al will be saved and gathered from the four corners of the earth before the physical return of Yahusha. Now, some are saying that and they don't even acknowledge the physical return. So that's a different narrative. But I want you to know not everyone. Keep in mind, people are dying each day. They won't be returned. And they say, oh, common sense knows that. No, I'm just saying, let us speak truth to power. Let us speak correctly. Isaiah 43:5 through 8 says this: "Do not fear, for I am with you. I shall bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I shall gather you. I shall say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. Bring my sons from afar, my daughters from the ends of the earth." Now, see, this is the part that people miss. He said, "All those who are called by my name, whom I have created, formed, even made for my esteem. He should bring out a blind people who have ears, and deaf ones who have ears." I'm sorry, a blind people who have eyes, and deaf ones who have ears. My brothers and sisters, he said all that he formed for his esteem. You see, they forget that some of us will die for Yahusha's name. They forget some of us will die now, tomorrow, next week, next month. They give people this false sense of security that we all are going to be gathered before the physical return of Yahusha. Now, true enough, on Judgment Day, resurrection time, everyone will be gathered. But there are some things that will happen before the physical return of Yahusha. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. Let's go to Jeremiah 23:3. It reads, "Therefore I shall gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands where I've driven them, and shall bring them back to their fold, and they shall bear and increase." See, this is not talking about resurrection, because you see, my brothers and sisters, once resurrection, that we will not be given into marriage. We won't be having children. So many people miss what it's saying. So many people want to deliver a false narrative to you. We must gird up and be prepared to die for Yahusha's name. We must gird up and be prepared to obey and respond. Come with me to Ezekiel 20. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 33 through 38. Let's read these words, O Yashar'al. Ezekiel 20, 33 through 38. And I'm reading from the scripture version of my sword, 2009. It says, "As I live, declares Master Yahuah, do not I with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, and with wrath poured out, reign over you? And I shall bring you out from the peoples and gather you out of the lands where you are scattered. And with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm, and with wrath poured out. And I shall bring you into the wilderness of the people, and shall enter into judgment with you face to face there. As I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mitzrayim, so that I entered into judgment with you, declares Master Yahuah. He took them out of Mitzrayim into the wilderness. He took them to the promised land. He took them towards the set-apart mountain. And there he spoke to his servant Musha and gave him the 10 Commandments, gave him the initial laws to write for us to govern ourselves and set apartness. He said, "And I shall make you pass under the rod and shall bring you into the bond of the covenant and purge the rebels from among you and those who transgress against me. Purge the rebels from among us and those that transgress against him. From the land where they sojourn, I bring them out, but they shall not come into the land of Yashar'al, and you shall know that I am Yahuah." There's a cleansing, there's a purging that will take place, O Yashar'al. Beware, for among us are misleading individuals. It would be wise to understand the final exodus will not take place in an instant. Thus, intermittent gatherings must take place. People moving from California to the next state. People moving from one country in Europe to the next. From one province to the next. Moving in a direction that the Almighty Father is directing them. People moving from Australia. People moving from the Far East, the Middle East. Movement will come, O Yashar'al. The gathering will take place. And it will prove that there will be intermittent gatherings. Stay with me, O Yashar'al, as I continue on the message of intermittent gatherings. The world is enormous. There are many miles to travel. Those gathering will recognize it takes time to reach our destinations. There will be intermittent gatherings, time of rest, time of replenishing and picking up and moving further in the direction that the Almighty Father will have us go. And we will witness our numbers grow. My brothers and sisters, it is very important to understand that we have to adjust and adapt as we face intermittent gatherings. As we move from a smaller group to a larger group, it will require adjusting and adapting. Here are some things to consider when it comes to adjusting and adapting, when it comes to witnessing intermittent gatherings, communications, and language challenges. For Revelation 7 chapter say there will be many nations, kindreds, and tongues. So we will learn how to adjust and adapt to different languages among us as we are gathered together, how we communicate with one another. Obedient, set-apart leadership. We will learn how to discern leadership that's obedient, that knows how to turn over the leadership. Maybe they've been anointed to lead 50, 100, 1,000, but now they come to 5 and 10,000. So they would find themselves under leadership that can handle 10,000, 20,000. Intermittent gatherings, my brothers and sisters, structure will come in a way in which we would have never imagined, that will bring order towards those who will be gathered in these final days. Change in structure as our numbers enlarge. Identifying those with and those without, those that are weak and those that are strong, those who have and those who have not. Not ignoring anyone that is least among us. Participant versus those who will be left behind. Water and food management. Clothing, shelter. Temporary shelter and permanent shelter. Resources and supplies. Transportation needs. Growing in unity by the living directions from Abba Yahuah, whose word comes in the name of Yahusha. There's a lot to consider. Yashar'al, my brother, my sister, let us face the realities of what's unfolding. Let us prove that the things we say we believe are unfolding before our very eyes. Let us not be afraid to identify what the realities of end times resemble. I'm compelled to believe there will be small groups coming together, my brothers and sisters, to form larger groups during intermittent gatherings, till we reach that destination of the true Mount Sinai. There will be times to move and moments to be still. Let us choose wisely what we will do, O Yashar'al. Do not ignore these words, for he who is unprepared will probably respond unwisely. End times will prove the need to forge a to-do list as we find ourselves in motion. If we fail to yield to living orders, which I believe will include being organized, chaos and confusion will overtake us. But know this, Abba Yahuah's plan will not be a might or a maybe, but will be successful. The question is, where do you see yourself? What are your expectations? What are our expectations? Examine one another's abilities, my brothers and sisters, as it relates to adapting and adjusting during intermittent gathering. Who have the sensitivity to discern how to maneuver and navigate through the changes we will face as we find ourselves gathering with more and more set-apart ones? Who will be anointed among us? Who demonstrate that they are even aware that their groups will have to move and will ultimately meet up with other groups? It's not going to be all these different camps and communities and coming together and saying, well, that's the community over here and this is the community over there. We're going to come together as one. We're going to find ourselves among anointed leaders, anointed ones that will demonstrate what is expected and what will be done as ordered by the Almighty Father. And it requires adjusting, adapting. Have discussions regarding intermittent gatherings. Discover those who are able to discern living orders from Abba Yahuah. Know what it takes to obey. Obey what is true, what is coming from the Almighty Father, Yahuah, in his word's name, Yahusha. My brothers and sisters, the realities of end times will prove there will be intermittent gatherings. The hardest thing is for us to move. Are you prepared to move? Have discussions. And those who say, I'm not going anywhere, then don't waste your time trying to go to them when movement is ordered by the Almighty Father for you. Let them be. Some will regret it, some will not. But in due season, O Yashar'al, the drawing power of the Almighty Father will be magnified to present to the world his set-apart nation, his set-apart children. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, many of my messages I know are redundant or I keep saying similar things, but ask yourself, is it stirring within your spirit? Is it resonating? Does it stay with you? Does it stick? Does it present life? Does it encourage you to draw closer to the Almighty Father and discover what he has for you to do? It's a lot of talk about what's going on and what they're doing to us, but how much discussion is there among us on doing the things that guides us closer together? I strongly suggest that you consider seeking to identify the time to move and move. Seek out the brothers and sisters whom the Almighty Father wants you to be close to. Let us start to move closer to one another. For I believe this represents the orders from the Almighty Father. Closer to one another, and then start moving towards the direction of the exit point of whatever geographic area we're in. Identify that exit point. Have discussions about it. Some will come that will leave with the shirts on their back. Some have been favored with seed, with resources, with supplies, with clothing, with transportation. Some will have, some will not. But remember, he that is least of us must not be left behind. Must not be left behind. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, I thank you for your patience, your time. The series continue, EndTime manifests, and soon the realities of what we're supposed to be doing will be magnified. Seek out what is expected of you and start doing, O Yashar'al. Move beyond slothfulness. Move beyond wasting time on unfruitful debates and grumblings. On that note, I thank you for your patience and your tolerance, and I say to you, be encouraged, O Yashar'al. Stay tuned for this series continue. In the name of Yahusha, I come to you, my brother, my sister, my family. Shalum.